Order. It's Mr. Brooks, do you mind doing a prayer? Did I catch you off guard? I had so much going on, I forgot.
Father, again, we thank you for your love and for your care for us, for your kindness, for your provision. Lord, we just ask that you would give us wisdom in making decisions. Let done here tonight be glorifying to you. We ask these things in Jesus' precious name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, second item is approval of the agenda, but we do have something that needs to be added. And I was going to give Mr. Contrell an opportunity to explain.
Thank you, Mayor. As everyone, I'm sure on the board is aware, I believe it was the last meeting, the board passed a resolution that pretty much says that the agenda will have to be carried out as presented unless there are existing either emergency circumstances or an exigent circumstance. Before it can be determined that it is an emergency or an exigent circumstance, it will require a brief hearing as to why this needs to be added. What I would suggest to the board is to contingently add it to the agenda and schedule it under new business as item F and move my remarks on the Open Records Act to item G, because we don't need to be, mine requires no vote, and we don't need to get off of a voting agenda and then come back with mine. I would suggest that you approve it contingent upon the board making a determination that it is either an exigent circumstance or an emergency circumstance at the hearing on when item F would be discussed.
Okay, so we're going to make it item F, and then we're going to move the Opens Records Act to G. And is that when we will do the hearing, right before?
Yes, ma'am, we
G
do
and
the
F?
hearing when we call, we'll read what is proposed, the caption of the ordinance, and then it'll take 2 or 3 minutes to have a hearing so the board can make a determination that they will add it to be allowed or they will decline to add it.
Okay, and all the commissioners should have received a email from, I forgot who that was. Was it Brandy? Ms. Johnson gave it to us about what needed to be added to the agenda with the heat and air?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, with that being said, we'll move on. Do I have a motion for approval?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a first and second, and any discussion about adding the item? Okay, with that being said, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And third item on the agenda is citizens' comments, and our first guest tonight is Neil Rice.
Very pleasant to be able to speak with you all this evening. After 7 years of hard work and the cooperation and support of many individuals and groups, including the City of Fairview, Triangle School, the Jingo Post Office, and the Boone Street Clinic are ready to be opened. You commissioners have received a copy of this program this evening, So my real purpose is to speak to the listening audience. The event will occur on Saturday, June 13th, from 2015, from 12 o'clock. That is, it will end at 12 o'clock. It will begin at 10 o'clock. Coffee and water will be provided. Listen carefully. Please park at either the Recreation Center by Waves or at the Methodist Church parking lot. Bus shuttle service will be provided. There is no charge to attend the program, but donations would gladly be received. This same announcement will be occurring for 3 weeks, including the front page of the Observer, the city website, the Heritage Foundation of Williamson County website, the Fairview Chamber of Commerce website, the Fairview Now and Then, I believe it's called, Facebook newsletter, or however that is properly described, and probably also in the Fairview Shopper, as well as the equivalent with a different name in Dixon County and in Hickman County. We look forward to seeing all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's very exciting. I kind of want to clap over it, so I'm going to. That's great. Thanks for all the hard work. I know you have a committee that worked hard, and I know that some of the commissioners have helped with the process. I know that probably originally Mr. Johnson, and then I know Commissioner Bassell also, and some of the end stuff, and I don't know who else, maybe Mr. Sutton, but I know there's been some involvement, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate the citizens, coming together and trying to help, and some of the businesses that donated, and probably a long list, and I'll save that for Dr. Rice to say on the opening day of who all to thank, but very excited. Okay, that brings us to our second citizen, Ms. Henrietta Hall.
Thank you. I realize that you all are in the middle of a serious finance discussion, so I have some questions that were posed to me, and one thing that I saw, and I have a question. You all can talk later about it, but I'm just going to pose the question. Mr. Bassell, back when we bought the park truck, I remember you saying, and you promised to the citizens that you would keep a logbook for how much that truck was used in the park versus in the city. And I would like to be able to see that logbook, make it public. It would be nice if we had a log for all kinds of things like that. Do we know where they're going, when they're coming home, who they go with? And, but specifically, I would like to see that logbook. And I had been told several times by a couple, let's say 3 people, told me that they had seen a particular Board of Commissioner driving a police car through town, and I thought, well, I know it's Mr. Bassell, and he's driving in the park. So I didn't say anything. But then last Wednesday evening, my husband and I were coming home from Dos Margaritas, turning out, about 6 o'clock in the evening, and we saw Commissioner Alan Bassell driving the police car. And I'm not just talking like a park car, like a park police car. I'm talking about the Fairview brand new SUV car, fully marked police, Fairview Police all over it. I did not know that you were a police officer. A lot of people that have seen you in town did not know that you were an acting police officer. Can you explain to me why you're driving a marked police car on Chester Road at 6 PM going towards Highway 100? Because I don't see any reason why it couldn't be Mr. Sutton driving it or Mr. Johnson driving it. If it's okay for one, let's just give all of you a car.
Mayor, this is not a question and answer session.
No, she
No,
said.
I just said, I'm just posing it, because this has been, I'm not the only person that has seen it. But I wasn't gonna bring it up until I saw it, and I saw it.
If
My
he wants
husband
to
and I
answer
both
that
saw it.
In his closing comments, I'm fine with it, but.
No, you're right, and she said that she had a couple questions.
I don't expect
and
him to
she don't
answer me.
expect answers. And-
Right now.
But I agree.
I would like to know if that's city policy, and if it is, then why don't all of you drive them? That's all I have to say.
That's legitimate, I'm just.
Thank you. Okay, third citizen is Mr. Tim Woods. Or Wood, I'm sorry, put an S.
That's fine. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate you guys, job that you all are doing. It's very difficult. Some of you commissioners I know, some of you I don't know. For those of you that I don't know, I shoot fireworks for Mark's Pops Pyrotechnics. My questions for you all, of course you don't have to answer them now. I emailed Mr. Hall's office, copied all of you on these questions. As a citizen, I would like to know if we are, as citizens, paying for firemen to be pyrotechnics certified. And if so, how much is that cost? We're in a major budget crunch. Why are we paying, if we are, for 2 to 4 firemen? I've heard both. 2 firemen, 4 firemen, to shoot fireworks for the city. Also, I received an email to our company saying that it was a cost-saving measure. Thank you, Mayor, for taking the time to talk to me. She did discuss a few parts of the contract with me, one being the cost. We're paying the exact same amount to another fireworks company that we paid the last 3 years to the company that I shoot for, and we're having to shoot them ourselves. If we are paying for firemen, that's an additional cost. I don't see where the savings is in that. My other question is, does the city insurance company authorize the city to shoot pyrotechnics, Class B explosives? Are they going to pull our insurance policy if something happens? Another question is this company that is supplying the fireworks providing also the mortar tubes to shoot the shells out of, or are the fireworks simply cakes that you put on the ground in a box and light? If they are providing shells and they're not providing the mortar tubes to shoot them out of, the city's not going to shoot fireworks on July 3rd. My fifth question is, if the city takes delivery of the fireworks prior to July 3rd, the BATFE requires the fireworks to be stored in an approved fireworks magazine, which I'm pretty sure the city doesn't have. What are you going to do with them then? I raise these questions as a professional fireworks shooter because this happened to the city of Byrdstown last year. They were promised, we'll help you certify your people, we'll help you learn how to shoot the show. 2 weeks prior to the 4th of July, we got a phone call, can you come and bail us out? The fireworks company backed out, we have no guns to shoot our fireworks out of, and nobody passed their test to get certified. I don't want that to happen here. Mr. Johnson knows that I'm passionate about fireworks. We've got together on homecoming things for the high school. I just don't want the citizens to suffer because we're trying to save money and yet we're spending more and getting less. Please feel free to respond to the email that I sent to you all. I'm just curious. I don't want to be called the last week when I am making my travel plans for the summer and have to cancel everything to come here. I would do it, but I would like to know ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is awards and recognition. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. Officer Derek Byram, would you come to the podium with me?
Don't get caught speeding, come on.
have my microphone, so I hope everybody can hear me tonight. Officer Byram is my employee of the month this month. I'd like to read a letter from a passer through our community, of which Officer Byram assisted. On February 28, 2015, Patrol Officer Derek Byram assisted two elderly ladies who were lost. Officer Byram directed the ladies to a safe place to stop and then proceeded to print out directions to their destination. According to the lady who was helped, Byram was kind, compassionate, and helpful in a day of such rampant negative press about public servants. She took the time to write the letter of praise for his actions. Derek, I'd like to thank you for
Right.
being
Thank you.
closing here. Smile. Come on, smile, boy. I don't smile, so you have to smile for me. Good to go? Thank you. Thank you, Derek. Appreciate you, sir.
Congratulations. Okay, Mr. Hall, do you have any more tonight? Okay, I would just like to say congratulations to our 2015 graduates that will be graduating from Fairview High School tonight. I know I have a daughter, and then also I know Mr. Daugherty, that will both be attending graduations and watching our little girls walk across the stage. So exciting times. Congratulations for the hard work and everybody at the high school that is there making this happen, educating our kids. So with that being said, we're going to move to, you got something else? Oh, yes. And Vice Mayor told me, went right over my head. We noticed we have a scout group, and so I'd like to recognize y'all. If y'all stand up and maybe if you could tell us what group you're with and just say welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Robert Remington. I'm the Scoutmaster for Troop 297 here in Fairview. We meet down at the rec center, and so part of our different requirements, tonight we've got guys that are working on their first class rank, and we've got a fellow working on citizenship of the community merit badge and communications merit badge. And so we're watching how government works. And we appreciate the hard work that you all put in, especially it's obvious tonight that tonight's not one of those easy fun nights. But we appreciate you working hard for us and helping these fellas get an opportunity to see how this works. So thank you very much for recognizing us. We've got a lot of exciting things going on in the community. We actually are going to be at the Triangle School.
Okay.
One of our Eagle Scouts, his Eagle project was to put the flagpole in there, and so we're going to go support him in raising the flag there. So it's just an exciting time to be part of the community.
You're welcome. Do y'all want to say your name? So real quick, just go down the line. We'll start to the left. Speak loud, though, because you don't have a mic.
Max Green, Caleb Dow,
Jacob Blaylock.
Jared Hudlow.
Michael McComas.
Thank you for coming, guys. Yes.
Question, and I'm not sure what it is. How many Eagle Scouts have we developed from Fairview?
Ever?
Ever? Did
I
you
don't know the answer to that, but we have a group of boys that, this is exciting. We're going on a high adventure trip. We leave on Tuesday. This is the first high adventure trip our troop has taken since 2001. And so you've probably seen us washing cars down at Tractor Supply for the last year and a half or so. But at our last car wash, we had a lady stop by, and she said that her son was the first Eagle Scout in Fairview. And actually, Governor Lamar Alexander, came to Fairview because Lamar Alexander is also an Eagle Scout, to honor that young man. The truth is, I'm not sure. Our troop has been in existence for about 50 years with various levels of activity. We currently have 3 active Eagle Scouts in our troop, and we have 2 that are working on their Eagle projects. It's actually, the tradition's very strong here. Nationally, Eagles represent about 2% of all boys who start Scouts, and we have a much higher percentage of them here at Fairview. So it's a great place for scouting.
Thank you very
Great,
much.
thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Okay, public announcements, did we have anything? I can't think of what's going, besides the graduation, yes.
The emissions testing every Monday and Tuesday from 7:30 till noon.
Question
Okay.
is, are they gonna have it next Monday since it's a Memorial Day? People will not, just so people won't drive up there.
Commissioner, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Brandon said that.
Okay.
And it's probably a good time to announce that we will be closed, right, Monday, Memorial Day,
ma'am.
observing
Yes, ma'am.
the holiday. Okay. Staff comments. Go ahead, Mr. Humber.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Just a couple of brief things to report. First, I think everyone can see that our resurfacing project on Cumberland and Cox Pike is they're both substantially complete. We feel like we've got an excellent job from Eubank Paving. We think that it was well worth the effort for that Department of Transportation grant, and we think it's going to have a really positive effect on traffic movement and safety and those things in that, on those streets. We're still moving ahead with, things are still progressing with our roadscapes project that should be coming up for bid this summer, and also their Safe Routes to School, which should be coming to bid this summer also. So those are the things I wanted to report on. Thank you.
Thank you. I said probably a couple times now, I think one of the first times I sat in Mr. Hall's office, and then probably yours, Mr. Humber, is I said if we could get some of these grants taken care of, that will be a great accomplishment, because it seems like we've held on to these grants for a long time and just not had the follow through. So I really do applaud y'all for getting it done, and you've done a great service for the city, because grants, we got them, but we didn't always have the follow through. So just want to acknowledge what a great job. Look forward to seeing it done. Okay. Do you have anything for us, Ms. Johnson, tonight? Okay. Mr. Darty?
I think I've talked enough tonight, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Hello.
Hello. Have a couple events going on. We have the Star Party this Friday night, May 22nd, from 8:30 till 10 p.m. And we also have the Starlight Jam next Friday night, May 29th, 7 to 10 p.m. I just want to say that most people know that we had a road issue both on Chester and Horn Tavern, and hopefully to get with Tennessee Valley Paving to, they're supposed to open up their plants so we could get hot mix and get them back to a normal asphalt surface. So we just ask people, if they're driving, they see the gravel, please slow down, it is dangerous.
Another announcement, in case it rains.
It usually moves inside to the Nature Center.
It did last time, right?
Yes.
A lot of people think if it rains, it's canceled, but it's not.
No, they moved it inside. This is going to be a little bit bigger group, a lot of big following, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce their name.
One question or thought maybe you could do clarification for. Obviously, we had 2 sinkholes, right? And I know like on Sunday, I think it was Sunday, y'all had a crew off of Chester.
Chester Road.
And then there was something over off of Horn Tavern also. And I had citizens asking about the gravel and it settling. Will you explain the process that it has to settle before you can go back and pave? Just kind of give a general, since you're up here, because
Right.
people had some concerns.
In the past, what we've seen is that when they put the culverts underneath the roads, they used a low crush and run around the culvert itself and then replaced it with dirt, and then put a little bit more for the the binding material and the asphalt to go over the top. And what's happened over the years is it's washed the dirt away. The gravel's still there, but it causes a sinkhole in the roads, and eventually it just starts giving way. So what we do is go in there, dig it out. If the culvert needs replacing, we'll replace that and put shot rock or riprap, whatever anyone wants to call it, the bigger rock, go in with a smaller rock, and then put crush and run on top. And with the weather and the cars driving over it, it compacts it. We will dig a little bit of the crush and run out and then refill it with the asphalt.
Okay, thank you. And then how long will it take before you actually get to the point where you feel like, I mean, I know it could vary, but you're going to wait a little while before you actually pave it?
Right. Well, with the rain, it helps help with the compaction, getting it wet and making it a little bit harder surface to get back in there. And we're hoping to start on that hopefully next week.
Okay, great.
I know a couple of these locations was put under a terrible stress back in 2010, because I know those areas were completely flooded at that time.
Yeah, we think that was part of the problem to start with.
And Mr. Hall had a comment, so if you want to stay.
Thank you, Mayor. Talking to Todd, we're going to try to do the asphalt work ourselves, because they have worked on the roller, and we're able to use that once we get the plant up and going over there to get us some hot mix. So we're going to do our own asphalt on those, so we won't have to sub that out to a paver or anything. So it's another way of saving money.
Well, good deal. Okay, any other questions?
The name of the band is Uncle Shuffalo and his Haint Hollow Hootenanny. They are from Rover, Tennessee, which is south of College Grove, going towards Shelbyville.
Okay, and I guess parks are, your camps start when? Trick question.
June.
Okay.
First, I think it's the first week in June they start.
You still taking signups, or is it?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you. Any other staff? Mr. Chief Harris, I see you're in the back. Nope. Anybody? Yes.
I'm sorry, I forgot this week. The letter from the approval letter from the state comptroller, they wanted to make sure it was mentioned tonight and that it was put into the minutes. So a copy of that will be in the minutes, and also I believe Ms. Johnson, if it's not on the website, it will be shortly.
Okay.
I would just like to answer Mrs. Hall's question.
Okay.
He is a Fairview police officer, or he wouldn't be working in the park.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. How long has Commissioner Bissell been a Fairview police officer?
Oh my gosh.
Started in the reserve program in May of 2011.
Yeah. And he's also my crime scene photographer.
So is that just in the park, or does?
No, he comes out and assists all officers and
I'm an
helps.
auxiliary officer. I pass the certification every year, including firearms. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but I have arrest powers.
Yes.
And the reason that I have never driven one of the new cars, I was in the used Ford Expedition passed down by one of the sergeants that we use in the park, and I was responding at Lieutenant Stockdale's request to assist on a 9-year-old lost child that had gotten off of the bus because the other officers, 2 of the other officers were tied up with an aggravated shoplifting at Walmart, and you need multiple officers to conduct a proper
Search.
search for the young lady.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Chief Harris?
No, but
Okay.
and
Yeah, you can explain, I guess, closing
but
comments.
it's like a couple of weeks ago, we had a missing 4-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all hands on deck.
Oh, yeah,
So-
scary stuff, yeah.
So, but
Same way we do when everybody comes to the park to help me.
yes, so, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item is approval of the minutes. So if there's nothing on the consent agenda that needs to be removed, we can move on down to the consent. And then, do we still got to read them?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
until we have the second reading, he'll only have to read item C because that's the only caption to an ordinance.
Okay.
Well, I've got some problems, and I've asked, can't go free form.
We have the same hairdo. We have the same hairdo.
Me or you ones probably should be insulted. I don't know which one.
They're all lawyers.
Item 8C, second reading of Bill 2015-18, ordinance number 883, an ordinance for an amendment to the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2014-2015 budget, transferring funds from state street aid for the road loan in lieu of unassigned general fund expenditure.
Move for approval, second. All right.
Okay,
You got to repeat caption also, right there.
yeah, C.
Is that it? Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, we got a first and second, so he doesn't need to read C.
I did read C.
Oh, you said, okay, read C, so we got.
It's the only one he
both
did
of
need to
them.
read.
Okay, just checking. Don't want anything to go by default there, because I didn't do something. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Old business, we don't have any. That brings us to 10, new business. Discuss and take action on Bill 2015-21, ordinance number 886.
An ordinance for an amendment to the City of Fairview, Tennessee budget for fiscal year 2014-2015 budget, appropriate funds from state street aid for emergency street repair on Horn Tavern Road, Basel.
I defer to CFO on the issue. Move to approve first.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second discussion.
Thank you. This is $4,000 appropriation to come from State Street Aid over into unassigned to pay for the materials for it to repair the sinkhole on Horn Tavern. It may not be appropriate, but I've heard on the good side, they had enough in that purchase that nothing had to be purchased for the sinkhole over on Crowcut, so.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mr. Hall, would you like to add anything?
Just that culvert was the major expense. It was probably 16 foot wide, no, 20-something, 24, about this big around. I saw it, and of course, they had to order the gravel, 3 different types of gravel to go down in there to stabilize it. And then, I think we might have had to have 2 signs printed to warn people of the loose gravel. And it is correct, we had enough gravel left over to repair the one on Chester Road on Sunday afternoon.
Okay, great. Okay. No other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, discuss and take action on recommendation from the Planning Commission for rezoning applicant with preliminary master development plan for property located on Cox Pipe, map 43, parcel 30.01 and 31.0, 32.19 acres from RS 40 residential to PUD residential unit development with base density of RS 15. Denny, Proctor, and Welch, owners, Commissioner Sutton.
This is something that we took up and the mayor was there on it too. And this is just not, we didn't feel like he complied with the old lady, everything else was involved in it. So we asked for certain changes again. That's about the third time that they came up to us. And the information that I've gotten so far, and we'll get verification from Ms. Gomber and the gentleman who brought his information to us tonight, to seek approval from the board on that. And I move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Okay, and then we have a second.
Ms. Gomber, can you?
Yes, this case was presented to the Planning Commission. They deliberated a couple of times, a couple of meetings on this. They did vote to deny his application. He has appealed, as his right is, to the Board of Commissioners. With his development, he also submitted, which I'm sure all of you have copies of, some amendments he's making to his plan that he presented to the Planning Commission. And Mr. Smythe is here tonight to answer any questions that anyone would have concerning that.
Well, are we ready for Mr. Smythe, or did anybody have any other questions?
I would like Frank to tell us what changes he made versus what they asked him to do and he didn't.
What he, the changes what he presented to the Planning Commission was 93 units on 32 acres with 5,000 minimum 5,000 square foot lots.
The original request was for 130-something homes, am I correct?
125.
125,
Yes.
okay, I'm just.
So that, he revised his plan, he came back to the Planning Commission with a plan that had 93 units on 32 acres for an overall RS 15 density. Now he's back, or he's presenting to you tonight, that plan being amended to include, one, a lower density of 2.5 units per acre, which he was at 2.9 units an acre previously, with 80 lots instead of 93. Originally, in the first meeting, the board wanted his density lowered to R15, a density of 2.9 units. In the last meeting, several suggested that they wanted to go back to R20, or a density of 2.2 units per acre. Second, he is...
Before you go any further,
Yeah.
were those suggestions or were those voted on by the Planning Commission? Did the Planning Commission vote for him to bring R15 to them?
No, I took those as being suggestions.
Yeah, no, there was no vote taken on that.
Mayor, I have something.
Uh-huh, yeah. Yes.
I have a question. This may be, I guess it's from Mr. Humber and Mr. Cantrell. It sounds like what's happened, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's appealing something from the Planning Commission, but what he is bringing to this board is different than what was presented to the Planning Commission. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
And I'm going to use the term jurisdictional. I don't know that that's a proper term, but I use it in court all the time. From a jurisdictional standpoint, if he's presenting something new to us on appeal, does this board have the ability to hear that versus whatever he's changed being first considered by the Planning Commission?
Mr. Cantrell can answer.
Well,
And we
No,
want
I
the
think he needs to
attorney,
talk.
hang on 1 second.
What he presented to the Planning Commission, they turned it down. They have not voted on this. this board has every right to hear it if they want. What I would suggest to do, if this board wants to hear it, is hear what's there, and then if this board decides that they want to approve it, is send it back to the planning commission for them to reconsider what the board here has done.
Can I finish?
Because the appeal from that board would be here.
Sure.
And I wouldn't suggest that this board approve it, but the people have been there, presented things, 3 times?
Yes.
And it might be appropriate for this board to hear it, so that he goes back to that, and if you want to refer it back to that board for their consideration, you just hear it and then refer it back to the board or whatever the board desires to do. Then he could, if the board has heard it and wants it sent back for his new plan because they haven't heard it, they haven't heard this one, then they could hear it and they would be on the same page you're on, and then if they get an adverse ruling there, they could appeal it back, and you've already heard what he's got now.
Certainly, he has a right to appeal, and I respect that right. But the problem I have with it is he's made changes since
Right.
whatever
And-
was presented. Let me finish.
And if this board desires, they can just direct that it be re-referred to the planning commission as submitted to this board, because as I understand it, what he's submitting to you is not what he submitted to the planning
That's
commission.
right, and that's my issue with it. I don't feel like that this, I don't feel like that if the planning commission reviewed one set of information or plans or prints or whatever, and they thought that changes should be made or didn't approve it for whatever reason, and then now the developer has made changes between what the planning commission heard and what he's asking us to review. I guess I think from a jurisdictional standpoint, all we can really review is what the planning commission did, and not something new that he's brought to us before the planning commission's ever seen it. So I'm going to move that this go back to the planning commission with whatever changes he has, that we take no action as the Board of Commissioners. It go back to the planning commission with the changes. If it comes out of there and they feel comfortable with those changes, then so be it. But I kind of feel like this is an end around the planning commission, and I don't think that's fair.
If it doesn't, if you refer it as, so the same plan, this plan goes back to the planning commission, and then if he gets an adverse ruling there, he certainly has a right to appeal it back up.
That's right.
But you have the option of sending it back, you have the option of hearing it and then sending it back. That's your call.
Just, if I can, for clarity, the appeal needs to be the process that was delivered to the planning commission and not an altered plan. Is that what we're saying?
That's right. So I guess I'm amending the motion to approve to send it back down if he wants to take this plan or. Okay, well, the original motion I think is withdrawn, so I'll just make a motion that we send this back down to the planning commission for them to review it, and then certainly if he gets it, like Vice Mayor Sutton said, if he gets an adverse, decision there, then certainly by all means come back. And I'm not trying to complicate the process for you, sir. I just really think that we're considering something kind of prematurely if you've made changes.
To abide with your decision, but the central issue involves.
Can you step up to the mic? I'm sorry, I can't hear you, so.
I was going to suggest that this whole issue be clarified from my perspective and deferred to your next meeting. Because in truth, I would rather just appeal the original proposition for a density of 2.9 and for lots 50 foot wide as originally turned down by the board.
But that's not what you're doing tonight.
Because it was done very hurriedly.
Very what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It was done very quickly. In other words, this all happened within 48 hours so that I could come before you. And consequently, I attempted in the letter to explain that I'm trying to do something no one else has done in accord with Frank Humber's desire and the desire of others to create urban standards in subdivisions going forward. I've created 3 subdivisions in Williamson County. I'm familiar with their zoning patterns. And what I thought I would additionally do was give you an example of what larger lots would do, because I think the larger lots run contrary to my objectives. Ultimately, I really feel best sticking with the plan that was rejected by the Planning Commission.
Well, respectfully, they may run contrary to your objectives, but not the objectives of the city as seen by the Planning Commission.
Well,
I
my
don't know what-
point is,
let
if
me
I
finish.
withdraw it,
Let me finish. I don't know what discussions that you've had with Mr. Humber, but what I do know is tonight at least, what you've brought to this board, or that's on our agenda, is an appeal from the Planning Commission, and you are appealing something different than what you're presenting to the board tonight.
well, then may I withdraw it?
If you want to appeal the original,
Yes, I'll withdraw this.
that's fine.
The only problem with that is we weren't given the original plan, so nobody's been able the opportunity
I
to
understand. I'll
look.
withdraw this
Okay.
because of the misunderstanding,
Okay.
and I'll resubmit the original plan. And I simply ask that you hold on to this illustration, because I'll use it to illustrate what larger lots would do that would run contrary to the approval of what I originally wanted.
Just for clarity though, we're not gonna approve it until it comes back in front of the planning commission. And if they can prove it or disapprove it, then we'll hear you if you wanna appeal it. I wanna make sure we got that.
That's not what he's asking.
I know.
He's gonna take this plan off the table tonight. He's gonna bring back to us the plan that they voted down at our next meeting.
That would
That's
be-
appropriate.
That would be a proper
That's
appeal.
appropriate right there, yes.
That's-
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question? since
Please
you're
do.
here?
I really want you people to have time to think about these issues, because I think they're very important. They're critical to the future.
When you come in and you take this road to the left, why is there not a cul-de-sac? And I don't think that meets our codes.
That whole 3.5-acre portion is the most permeable soil on the entire 32-acre site. And because you're dealing with a step system installation that requires permeable, high-perk soils, of which there are none, I think they are going to want me to separate that 3 acres at the road as a backup in the event the plan I'm suggesting runs into problems. I had originally set that aside for an amenity center with the 125 lot proposal. I kept it empty because it is the most permeable section of soils, and if it's used as a backup, and it turns out after 2 or 3 years there's no need for that backup, then the road frontage makes it an ideal site for preschool, for any kind of amenity center, for any number of different build-outs with separate access from the road that might enhance the subdivision for the people already living there.
That's all well and good, but that doesn't answer the question why there's not a cul-de-sac in between 71, 70, 68, and 69.
You are talking about the northeastern corner of the subdivision, correct? Where I have.
I'm talking about if you took a quarter and set it down on
Yes,
those 4 lots.
that's the permeable soils that I have to preserve as a backup.
No, I'm not talking about behind it. I'm talking about where the road sits itself. You have the road dead in and into probably, it looks like your property line.
Oh, because
There has, I believe,
All
I may
those
be
people-
wrong, but I think our codes requires a cul-de-sac there.
Yes.
in most other instances in Williamson County, I've had to stub out to a potential development. Those people have indicated in that entire section, all 10 acres, 5 owners that they want to sell.
All right. Last question I have is, the corner lot coming in on that road is unnumbered, and then you have an unnumbered lot in between.
It's not
21
wide
and
enough to
22.
support a building pad.
Do what?
It's not wide enough to support a building pad. That's one of the problems with enlarging the lots that I'll explain when I come back.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? So motions were removed?
Yeah, I
so-
think he's just withdrawing his request. So I guess I would move that, or do we need to make a motion?
Not till he files again.
Yeah, just,
Okay.
He'll just ask what to be put on the
Okay.
next agenda.
Planning commission.
And you want us to hold on to these requests and then,
It's been the planning commission.
He's bringing the one that they voted down to us.
okay. Well, with that being said, I guess that's it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Scouts, appreciate you coming in.
Discuss and take action on recommendations, oh, well, I guess we don't need that, from the Planning Commission.
Horn Tavern be city.
It's a
Oh, this
different
is
one.
Horn Tavern. Okay, I was thinking it was the same one. Discuss and take action on the recommendation, the Planning Commissioner for annexation requests a property located on Horn Tavern Road, map 22, parcels 64 and 65, 9 acres, Priscilla Lampley, owner,
She's not here.
and she's not here.
Is Ms. Lampley here? We'll just ask. No.
Okay,
No, because all this requires is the board authorized me to prepare the documents, and then it'll be put back on, and then she would have to be here.
okay.
move to approve if we haven't already.
Okay, we got a first and second. Any discussion? Okay, is this, they just wanted to be annexed in the city, but that didn't go in front of the planning commission. Got confused because we had a Horn Tavern one also, didn't we?
Yeah, it did go to the planning commission.
And it was denied.
Right.
It was denied. Okay.
According to the minutes, Sutton made a motion for approval, Butler seconded, and all in favor.
Yeah, it was the only one that was approved.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So
I'm
there
thinking
was
about the other
another
There's
one that
three-
was
there
on the
three in
planning
there, so-
commission.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Somebody tell me what that property was that was wanting to be annexed on the planning commission to do a R8?
That was that.
Over there.
He withdrew that.
No, that's
It
Cox
didn't-
Pike. I'm talking Horn Tavern. There was the Habitat for Humanity.
Yes, yes, yes.
Is this it?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
This is,
It was denied.
their request for rezoning was denied,
That's correct. That's what we were
and
considering.
they said they wanted to come back to the planning commission.
Right, and I
Another
just
plan.
wanted it stated, but she was saying that it said it was approved.
This is for annexation.
This is
I know.
annexation.
Okay, okay.
That's all we approved on that, man. That's all
Okay,
this
so
is.
she wants to be annexed into the city, and we're not doing the zoning. I just
And-
wanted to make sure.
Well,
I was like, wait.
we are doing the zoning, because when we bring it into the city, it comes in as R40.
Right, but she'll have to rezone it. They
Zone
had
for
an
the
application
RA.
that was withdrawn.
Yeah.
All I need is the board to authorize preparing documents.
Or whatever it is.
Okay, just making sure I'm clear, because. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discuss and take action on recommendations from the Tree Commission to adopt an exclusion of the use of shrubs on the Tennessee Stop Grow list for commercial developments, and that would be Commissioner, or Vice Mayor Sutton.
This is something that was brought up by our arborist and by the board of things that we need to add to our list or take away from our list, and the reasons why.
Correct. Hi, I'm Jane Woodall for the Secretary for the Tree Board, and I think based on y'all's last meeting, I am one of the officers that can present. For several years, the Tree Board has wanted to add a city shrub list to go along with their city tree list. And we started a list several years ago, and it's kind of been put on the back burner, and we're back now trying to get that moving. What our discussion was that there are so many shrubs that would be hard to limit it to a certain number of shrubs like we have the tree list. But we do want to make sure that as we're moving forward as a city, we're not allowing the planting of what has been deemed exotic invasive plants by the state of Tennessee and in some cases by the federal government. So what I brought you tonight was just some reading information that's on the website, the Tennessee Exotic Plant and Pest Council, so that you can refer to it. I think that was in the actual recommendation. but in case you didn't have time to go to the website, I printed this out for you. It goes through and ranks the definitions, gives you a little bit of history on how the list was developed. It goes into the definitions of how they grade the plants according to their invasiveness. And then on the 5th page, I actually brought in the list of the current shrubs that are listed there, and I moved the shrubs up to the top of the list, along with their ranking of severe threat down to alert. To be clear, what we're asking is that any that are on this list that are deemed, even if they're on the alert status, they may not be actually forbidden to be sold or grown at the moment, but what we're seeing, according to Mike, I talked with him earlier this evening, is these are moving up the list in severity as we go on. So rather than include something on this, even just if it's on alert status at this point and have to revise the list later on, just go ahead and use this as the list. Again, it's my understanding this list is updated at least annually by the state of Tennessee. And so this way, landscaping developers could go to this list and see immediately what species would be avoided or prohibited from being planted. And we are going to come up with a recommended or preferred list of shrubs that actually grow well in the area, but that's not what we're asking tonight. We're just asking tonight that to at least start with, we don't start introducing more exotic invasive species into our city.
Move to approve.
Yeah. Okay, got a first?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I just want to comment, I learned that we have such a thing as runaway trees. Who says you're not going to learn something by watching the tree commission? But any other discussion? Questions about? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, discuss and take action on Safer Grant firefighter open position, and that would be Vice Mayor Sutton.
I defer to the fire chief. This is to answer questions that we had asked in the earlier meeting, am I correct? About the grant.
What we're trying to do is go ahead and get the approval to get the grant guy back that we have open. We finally heard back from the federal government just a couple of days ago as far as being able to hire somebody other than just a veteran, because it's going to be hard to fill that spot.
Right.
But just getting a veteran, well, it only been good till February. Nobody's going to come in and take a job on a grant for a couple of months. So we got them to change that. And now, since we have that answer, we have to react in a efficient manner to fill that position. So we're trying to get approval to go ahead and fill that position, because it doesn't cost us, it's a grant. We're basically throwing money away. It's being given to us every second that we don't have somebody in it. And I'm still having to fill the position. So we'd just like to be able to go ahead and take care of that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Yeah, I have a question. We'll open it up for discussion. So it's a 100% match grant?
They're paying everything.
100%. And it's 6 months, or it runs out in 6 months, correct?
February the 7th, I believe.
Okay. So you would hire this person, and then where would this person go?
They're going straight to shift.
Huh?
They'll be going straight on shift. They got a
Okay.
shift that's only running 3 people. They'll be going on that shift to make it.
So
fair.
you're planning on retaining the person?
Yes.
So the grant's only for 6 months at 100%, then it's our responsibility at the end of the grant?
Correct, just as the other ones.
Did you have a question, Commissioner Crutcher?
I was just going to ask about Well, you asked one of the questions I had. I couldn't understand whether you said that you, where did you work out with something getting
We
extended?
had to put in a request in order to be able, the grant was for veterans. When they initially got it and the board approved it, it was for veterans. So in order to go back and rehire somebody, it would have had to be a veteran, and that's going to be hard to do right now with where we are.
Gotcha, okay.
So, and we have people qualified that we can put in that position already. So rather than having to go through that process and probably not hire anybody and waste that money, we put in for basically a variance to hire anybody, not just a veteran. And they give us the okay on that the past couple of days. That's the only reason they haven't said anything to us about not hiring already, is because we've been waiting for their answer.
Well, I will say that on the budget proposal that moved along tonight, that grant position was filled. Is that right, Tom? Was filled and retained.
The only position that wasn't filled, that y'all been talking about, is just the float position that we had.
Well, and I will,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, after last week's finance BOC meeting where we discussed the budget, and I came in and haphazardly made my suggestions of where I thought we could fund and not fund positions, which I'll never do again. I met with Chief O'Neill for a couple hours, probably the next day, talking about the fire department specifically. And I will say, after that conversation and the information he provided me that I went home and read and did my own studying on, I think the fire department is one area where we're understaffed. We can't really afford to lose anybody in the fire department, and for the record, I guess this will pretty much narrow it down. The two positions that I was talking about tonight were not part of the fire department that dealt with public safety. So I guess that'll narrow down where those were, but for what it's worth. But I think that, you know, to stay where we should be in terms of minimal staffing and utilize what's left of this grant. And I realize we have to retain this person at the end, and this somewhat probably flies in the face of my vote earlier with respect to the budget. But this wasn't one of those positions that I was considering. So I feel like, to make short of it, that we should just, we really need to fund this position, approve this position. They are, I think they need this
Just to give an
position.
idea behind the float position that we have, that's 117 shifts a year that the float person is able to cover for people that are taking off from the shifts. Whenever we don't refill that, you have to times that by 2. So 234 shifts for a volunteer to fill in that year. And there's roughly about 500 shifts a year that we expect volunteers to be able to fill without the float. So, and we've only got 9 that can fill a full-time position. And out of those, I believe it's 4 or 5 work for other full-time departments, so they're unavailable for 24 to 48 hours.
I have a question. When did the float position come about?
That was before me. I believe that was last year.
Was it this year, Mr. Darty?
I don't know when it was.
Sometime in the previous year, I believe.
I saw a shake back there. Can one of y'all tell me? You shook your head. No? 2 years ago? Okay.
And basically, that spot doesn't, we can control the overtime they get. They can work 9 shifts, get 4 hours of overtime, and then we don't have to let them work anymore. So they're paid straight time, basically.
Yeah, but you're not taking that float position and moving it to this grant, are you?
No, we don't, I mean, we're not going to have the float position.
So the float position probably has nothing to do with, besides just saying, hey, we got a float person. This grant position, you're going to hire an outside person to come in and fill the grant for the duration of the 6 months with the intent to keep them on?
Yes, all the grant positions, the entire grant was done with the intent to keep them.
Yeah, but
Period.
I read that. I read what they offered, and they said you don't have to. Not that I want to get rid of anybody. I'm not saying that. Not that you don't need. But no one's shown me where it said. And, if the contract says that, obviously you don't want to train people and lose them. I so get that. I do.
Are you talking about now or at the end of the grant?
No, I'm just saying, yeah, y'all keep implying that we have an obligation by taking this grant to keep the people. We don't. Matter of fact, I found it. Matter of fact, I found an email from the grant sent when it was originally came about, yes.
But Mayor, what he's
Yeah.
asking you is, are you talking about keep them during the grant period or retain them after the grant expires? Which period are you talking about?
Well, no, I'm talking after the grant expires.
When the grant expires, you have no obligation to keep
That's-
them.
okay, that's-
During the grant, you have an obligation to keep them, and you have an obligation to not drop our staffing below what it was, including the grant people at the
At
time
the
we got
time,
them. Right.
yeah. At the
Correct.
time, whatever your staff was at
That was,
the time.
and that's 14. So if you take the float off,
Okay.
that was the difference.
Okay. So I'm just trying to be really clear on all this because I've heard it mentioned several times that we have to keep it. And I read it with my own eyes saying that we didn't. So I just needed clarification
It's
why.
only-
Because nothing says we have to keep them at the end of the 6 months. Now, obviously, from a standpoint, obviously, we wouldn't want to invest that time and lose these people. We'd hate for them to want to leave us
The only-
after 6 months.
I'm sorry. The only thing that's been said as far as retaining them afterwards is that when you get the grant, basically, the reason for getting that is saying that you agree to try to retain them after. That's, as far as having to retain them, you used to have to for a year. And I believe at one time for 2 years after the grant went out. But this one has never been like that, just during the grant. But you do sign saying you're taking these people on to add to your minimum staffing level even after the grant is done. That's why you get the grant. You don't get it to get them for 3 years and then send them home. So that's the whole idea of the grant, and that's why it is harder to get a grant if you don't retain them after the grant is over. When we reapply, one of these days if we do, they're more likely not to give us that grant because they have already tried to help us and we did not stick to that.
Any other questions? Okay, so you're asking permission to go ahead and bid for a position that we don't have a budget worked out yet. Yes.
I just want to let you know this is part of the hiring freeze that I'm running through y'all for permission to do the hiring, okay?
Yeah, I appreciate
This is money
that.
we're already getting.
Huh?
This is money we're already getting. So
Yeah, I mean, no, they reimbursed us. I see it. I know it. But, okay. It just seems hard to hire somebody on for 6 months and knowing that we're having budget problems and try to bring somebody else on and then what if we have to let go? I mean, are you going to let go the first person?
you're going to fill the position no matter what. Whether it be a grant person or I have to find somebody to fill that spot, I have to put somebody in the spot. We can't
Did
run
you see
emergency
that in the
calls
contract?
with under 4 people. It has nothing to do with the contract, I'm telling you. If I lose somebody, I have to have 4 on shift.
Well,
I have
you
to
know
put that
what,
4th
though,
person back
Miss-
there.
Chief O'Neill, actually, we had less people before. So, I mean, you're just giving me a salesmanship, and I understand it.
No, there's no
But
selling.
it operated, you're saying to keep the ISO rating. I understand. For
It is
practical
not just the ISO
purposes-
rating.
The
Okay.
contingencies in the grant we're currently operating under require us a staffing level of, I guess it's 14.
The same amount that we have. I understand that.
So if we don't fill this position with the grant person, we will have to fill it with a floater or somebody else. So we might as well take 6 months of free money.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it.
But there is a cost at the end of that 6 months. I mean, we're
Correct.
retaining that
If,
person.
if we retain that person.
Well, I don't think there's an if. I think we are.
We're gonna
But you
have
don't
to because.
You don't have to, though. That's what I keep hearing. You can let them go now. It's not favorable, but,
If we let them go now, we're in breach of the contract. Is
well,
that-
and I understand that. I do. I mean, you just explained it very clearly. But what I'm saying is, y'all use terminology that we have to, and I haven't seen any physical thing after the end of the 6 months. Now, it's not favorable, and I respect your opinion that you say we wouldn't get other grants, and that's clear. But let's be very clear on what we're saying. When we're coming and saying you have to, well, nothing says, there's no legal legal obligation after 6 months that we have to. Now, it may not look good, it may not get us other grants, and that's fine. But let's be clear on what we're saying.
No, what I'm telling you is, not even including the other grant, there are calls that we can't even operate on with less than 4 people. Last week, there was an automatic aid for a structure fire, which by our contract, we're supposed to go to, and we sent nobody because we had nobody. Not one volunteer showed up. We had 3 people, not one.
On your contract, it says you have to have whatever, sign up. At the end of the 6 months, we don't have to worry about
No.
that.
Our contract with the county says that anytime they call
Okay.
us automatic aid, we
Okay.
send a tanker and 2 people on a
Okay.
structure fire. We didn't even have people to run 1 truck. That's what I'm telling you. Even if I don't have that 4th spot, I have to find somebody, whether it be a volunteer or somebody else, has to come in and take that place, or we're not going to emergencies. When we get there, we're going to sit and watch. That's all we can do. OSHA says we have to have a certain amount of firefighters on scene before we can go in a fire. Hazardous materials incident, you have to have a certain amount of people on scene before you can take care of that incident. Minimum of 4. That's what I'm saying. Even if you put me at 3, I have to fill the 4 position somehow. And we can't get volunteers. It's a dying breed across the country. That's just how it is.
Hypothetically, Chief, if you had, right now there's 13, including you.
Right now there's 14 because we're down, 13. We're down to-
13, including, that's including you?
Right.
Okay. And you have 4 on shift?
4
per
on shift, except for 1 shift, I've got 3.
Help me with this. If there's 12 and you have 4 on a shift, then why would you not have 4 on 3 shifts?
I've got myself, a training captain, which is administrative.
Okay.
He's there during the
All right.
day. And then there's 4 on each shift.
That's what I was trying to figure out in my head, the math.
Well, and I don't understand, people call in my work and I cover for them, even though I'm the director, if a piece is missing, could y'all not do that? I
Well,
mean.
we do that some.
Okay.
But
I'm just
actually, when it comes to certain
clarifying.
concepts of that, the fire chief does not count as those numbers. That's by law.
Okay.
If I had 2, then you have to have a commander on scene, period.
Mhm.
That's not an option.
Yeah,
If
I
there's 2
understand
chief
that.
officers, then you have 1 that can be command and 1 that can operate in operations. But I don't have that. And y'all don't want me to promote anybody.
Well, you
It's
do
not that we don't want you to-
understand.
hey,
Yeah, this is not, that's so funny. I crack up if y'all think this is personal. It's about, we only have so much money to deal with things. It's not that we don't want you to have, but the thing is, we've given so much, and you're coming new in this position, in this role, but there's been a lot given for the last 4 or 5 years. And for people to act like we don't want you to have something, you know what? I want y'all to have the world. I want you to thrive. I want you to be the best running department and everything you need. But we're no longer in those situations, and so we have to make tough decisions.
Yeah,
Well, I just don't see where it's a tough decision to fill a grant spot. I don't, even if it's for 6 months that we're being paid for. It's not coming out of our pocket.
I know
It's
you
kind of, and although it might only be for 6 months, it's 6 months that it's putting us in a better situation to try to get through at least till February, no matter what happens.
Certainly, I've got to say, just off what the mayor said, it's not that we don't want you to have what you asked for. I can assure
understand
you of
that.
that. And I know you didn't mean it that way.
Well, and
but-
it's more of a safety issue than anything. We have a job to do, and like when it comes to the money, operations, and people are more important on this side. Taking 1 person from me is worse than taking $10,000 from me, because if I don't have the people to do the job, we don't need the equipment, because we can't use it. Everything's in the buddy system. Nothing works in 3s, nothing works in 5s. It works in the buddy system, the fire service, and that's just how it is. You can't do anything alone, period. That's when people get killed. So we have to try to prevent that, and the minimum of 4 is just, that's across the board. That's any agency you go to, the International Association of City Managers, all those groups. It's a minimum of 4 on 1 truck. We're running a minimum of 4 on 1 department. So, I mean, we are at the minimum, and we need this grant spot.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to now have a hearing and whether or not we can have, and I want to say emergency, what was it? I know you told us.
It could be either an emergency or exigent circumstance.
Extra circumstances. Okay.
I thought we put something in between that, did we not?
Was it,
If, we added one.
No, what we did was we made that,
F?
we made that item F and moved me down to item G.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I had
we-
something, there's something that goes before this presentation, I think, about the budget amendment for the air conditioners in the
Yeah,
park.
that's what she was
Yeah,
talking about.
this hearing is
It's a hearing
to allow
for you
us.
to determine if it's an emergency or
That's what's gonna end
exigent.
up being.
We've got to determine whether it's,
I understand now. I was confused on what hearing we were having, so I didn't.
It was the consent, it was, the vote was that you would determine if it's an emergency or an exigent circumstance and then determine whether to add it and then vote on it.
I'm with you now. I'm the one that was,
This won't take long, but I just want to reiterate, the board passed a resolution that required for items to be added to the agenda after the agenda was published, that it would have to be an emergency or an exigent circumstance. And on the resolution, it defined emergencies and exigent circumstance. Everybody knows what the emergency is. It has to have an immediate effect or potential effect upon someone's life, immediate loss of property, or an effect upon the environment. An exigent circumstance stops just below that. I like to say they're impending emergencies. It may not be an emergency right now, but there are conditions such that an emergency could arise from them. And everyone knows this is about the ordinance to allow purchase of heating and cooling units. I guess it may just be cooling units. Is it just cooling units?
No, it's heating
Okay.
and cooling.
Heating and cooling units for Bowie Nature Park, the Nature Center, is that correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Paisley, could you just tell the board what happened and what you observed up there about the existing units?
We've been trying piecemealing these air conditions for the last couple of years. It's run us about $10,000 so far. To repair the two units currently, it'd be about $7,000. They're both units are 12 years old. They're as old as the building are. And all we're asking is that we be able to purchase new ones.
And those units that are there, that are existing now, I mean, the building itself, do you use that in the summertime or when the heat's intense outside for anything?
Well, I mean, heating and cooling the building, we got summer camps with a bunch of kids coming in and out of there and programs and staff.
And that would be during this coming season?
Yes.
And if you don't have that, would you be able to use, if you don't have heating and cooling, would you be able to use that building?
Well, you can use the building as is, but it's going to
Could the
be
people
really
stay in there?
visible.
That was my
and
question.
You're probably not going to get as much work done because people are going to try doing something to be cooled off.
Is there anything inside that building that is sensitive to increased humidity that would not be removed if you don't have the units?
I'm sure it could have some effect on the electric system or the phone systems.
Live animals.
What about the floors?
It's possible I mean, they're concrete floors except for in the staff wing.
Anything in there that would be subject to taking moisture and swelling?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's enough for you to make a decision unless you have some questions for Mr. Paisley. But I would also ask the board, if you choose to authorize this, they've asked for it from the park fund, and you make a determination that this is adequate to to be paid for from the park fund, and the second thing is, they need to get this done as quickly as possible, and I don't like this, but it's certainly legal. If the board decides to pass this on first reading, we'll have to have a second reading. You could also authorize him to proceed under the doctrine of legislation pending to get his work started prior to the passage of the second reading. That's up to you, but it is an option and would give him a little bit of chance to get this done.
Like 6,100.
First, you'll have to determine if this is an
Yeah,
exigent circumstance and agree to add it to the agenda.
Okay, if we can we'll make a motion to add it to the agenda if everybody,
Motion to add it.
which is already added, so we're just closing the
Just need to
hearing.
determine it's an exigent circumstance.
Motion to consider an exigent circumstance.
And then you need, and add to that motion, that you wanted to add it to the agenda because that was contingent on your finding the exigent circumstance.
And what Larry said.
Second.
Okay, so we have a first and second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Does that also include allowing him to be able to start now?
No,
Okay.
we can do that at on the agenda item. We were just saying whether or not it would be added as.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was getting ahead of myself.
Okay, that's fine. I do that all the time. I can understand.
I think sometimes quicker than I move, and sometimes I move quicker than I think.
I got you. Okay, now we'll move on to the new F, which, well, we'll just, as far as voting on or hearing from Mr. Paisley about the needs of the air condition.
These units are 12 years old. Currently, they're actually probably going to be 13 come August. The lifespan of the units are 10 to 14 years. There's going with the new ones, there's a 1-year warranty on parts and a 5-year warranty on a compressor. Now, currently, the $10,000 that we've spent, we've replaced 5 compressors throughout the lifespan of those units that we have currently. And to get them back up and running, it would take about $7,000 to do that. To get 2 new ones, with a SEER rating of 13 would be $12,265.60. To go with a SEER rating of 14, it would be $12,877.20.
Yes, Commissioner.
Keith, the expenses that we've paid before, was that money taken from the park fund, or was that money taken from general appropriation?
That was general fund.
So the money, the $10,000 that we spent, it wasn't taken from the park fund?
No.
And so is there 1 unit or 2 units?
There's 2 units. There's
Okay.
actually 3 units in the building, but
Is that not excess?
no, there's actually 12 in this one.
Yeah, but that park building's not even,
Well, they're
The-
split units, they're heat pumps. There's one for the staff wing, one for the middle portion, and they're all the same size, and then one for the,
what's the square footage of the building?
I couldn't answer that one at this time.
3,000? 2,500? I mean, I can't say that it would be, do you remember?
I don't remember, but I would say it's more than 3,000.
You think it's more than 3,000?
So is there a
A lot of open
functioning?
space.
Yeah, is there a functioning unit there? There is one functioning
There is
unit?
one between the two, the staff wing and the Discover rooms, but we don't have it on because it's making it work harder than what it should, and we don't want to have a third one go out on us.
So you had 2 at one time go out?
Yes.
And both of them would take new compressors?
No, they're not needing new compressors. They would have to need, the one unit on the Discovery side, there's a lot more damage to it. The actual housing of the unit cracked, and the portion that's holding the fan, the big fan blade in it, actually broke free, broke a blade, damaged the capacitors inside there, lost one of the fan blades. You would have to replace the condenser units in both of them.
And what's the estimated repair cost if we just repair it?
About $7,000.
So we're talking about $5 more to replace something, and not have to worry about something else breaking down?
For,
How many, we replaced 5 compressors?
so far, yes. And that's the majority of the cost right there. They're about $2,100 a piece.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. How was that building funded to begin with, to be built? Was it part?
Through the Bowie Park Fund.
Okay.
The
But it hadn't been,
original.
but it has not been necessarily maintained through the Bowie Park Fund? It's been maintained through the general fund?
Yes.
Okay. You know, this is one of those circumstances, like I was talking about in our first meeting, where we have these things that are gonna come up that are unanticipated, where we're gonna have to fund them, and now we're gonna fund it out of this special revenue account, which is our special fund, which is what I think the suggestion was when these unforeseen things arise. Eventually, that particular special fund is gonna be gone. And when it's gone, these types of things are gonna have to come out of the general fund. You know, I mean, what do? We have 2 air conditioners need to be replaced. We don't have money in the general fund to do it, that's for sure.
Well, if you looked at it from the other way, and if we'd have been taking the money out of the Bowie fund all the way, maybe there'd be money in the general fund.
I don't think that,
This is a park expense, that's where it should be coming from.
I don't disagree, but I don't think that fund's gonna touch our problem.
And it's not a regenerating fund. I mean, it's money that's stuck as a reserve. Now, we've used it for things that have a impact on the park, and that's, you know, one thing. And I don't even have a problem right now, even, you know, have objected against a lot of things come out of that fund, but this would be one thing that I would say would be a necessary thing to come out of the fund. But my problem comes back into is we need 1 month's operating expense, and if we're using designated funds to come up with that at the end of June, I don't see how we can do it. And that's what happens when you mess with the money and you don't have a reserves. You can't do simple things.
We wouldn't be using this money to balance, would we?
We have to, that's included.
Oh, gosh.
So if we spend the money to fix this, and this is the kind of crisis that come up, we spend the money to fix this, then that's less for that ending June 30th of how much we have in our unrestricted reserves.
What do what's the alternative? I mean, we don't have any other alternative. Well, who is
Well,
C&M
y'all
Heating
have
and
it.
Cooling?
It's a company we've been using for a few years, and they've actually done stuff for City Hall's air conditioning units.
Are they local?
No, they're not.
Okay. Is this the only quote we got?
Yes.
I mean, I agree, obviously, luckily today was nice outside, but I agree with 80, 90-degree days coming right around the bend again. Next week, you know, obviously you need an air conditioner.
But do we need 3? I mean, is it something you can fix one and then the other one and adequately? I mean, the square footage, no one can tell me how much it is. Did we get other bids? Did we have somebody, you know, I don't know. Have we done everything we can do?
I don't know, it's just, sorry, it's just one of those situations where I'm left with, I don't have a choice again, and
Well, I lived in my own house for a month until I could get it argued out with somebody to, in August. So, you know, you do have choices when you don't have money. Not recommending it, but I'm just saying, fighting over an air conditioner unit and didn't want to pay to fix it because they knew it wasn't our fault. It was brand new. you do stuff. You survive.
That's a good point, Mayor, but we have to be concerned about our facility being open to the public and what liability that leaves us in terms of the public coming in there and somebody falling out from the heat or.
We can close it down.
Yes, we could,
Yes.
but then it would be almost, how would you have your programs?
Well, they're outside the majority of the day. I mean, they got Joanne's classroom, it's a park, it's an outside facility. You can't, I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, there's probably no need to even have this conversation, but I just, we can shut the building down. We can run off of one unit with fans. It wouldn't be the end of the world. Okay, any other discussion? We got a first and second, correct?
I don't know if we ever even made a motion.
Didn't.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Did you want to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
And are you going to allow him to go ahead and get somebody started on it, or you want to wait till the second reading? Because he'll need that authorization if he starts now.
I think move to let him go ahead with the bid process and come back with information on, I'm like the mayor, I heat and cool my house by square footage. I think everybody does. And 3,000 square foot is a pretty good size, but 3 air conditioners is a lot too. But just, I they would authorize him to move forward with the bid process at least.
Well, I think because it's an emergency purchase, you don't have to do the bid process, but I do think it wouldn't hurt to get somebody else to come out there and see if there wasn't a better way to do the whole building.
Absolutely.
I'll get an estimate before we, but.
We have a guy here in town that'll probably give us a good deal since he donated everything for Triangle School. He'd probably be willing to cut us a deal, especially if we're paying.
Well, I withdraw my motion.
But if they're, well,
You can amend and make a new one.
yeah, what I'd like to
Robert
see us
Clark,
do, kids, is
Mid-State.
I'd like to see us call, I always get it wrong, it's not Middle Tennessee, what is it?
Mid-state.
Mid-State, Robert Clark.
And since Mr. Clark did so much for us on the History Village, just have him come see what it would cost to do heating and air conditioning. We may not need 3 units, we may need 2 units or 1 super unit or something to that effect. I kind of agree with the mayor. I was trying to step it off in my mind, how many steps it takes me to get from one side of the building to the other and that sort of thing. And I think we're probably talking 4,000 square feet is what I think we're probably talking. It's the configuration of the building with all the little, walls and stuff like that, and then the high ceilings that makes it difficult. Plus, I don't know what kind of insulation's in the attic. So, given those kinds of things, I think my preference would be that we get somebody else to look at it, and it doesn't have to be Mr. Clark, it could be anybody, but we get somebody else to look at it, and that, but that we go ahead and approve the monies from the Bowie Park Fund so that if he gets somebody out there tomorrow to look at it, and he's got 2 bids in front of him, that the city manager can make that decision as to which bid, as long as we cap it at, what'd you say the bid was here for the 13 seer?
13 was 12,265.60.
At 12.5? How's that sound to everybody?
I have both of them up there.
Any comments?
No, I agree.
So that they can move on. That way, I don't think they have to do a bid process if it's an emergency purchase. Isn't that right, Larry?
Well, we didn't call it an emergency.
No, but you wouldn't have on an exigent circumstance, as long as you authorize them to get 2 quotes and proceed with the one they think's best.
So we're just putting it on the agenda.
So that would be my motion, is that they're required to get a second quote and that they're able to proceed to get it fixed as long as it does not exceed 12.5. If the quote they want exceeds 12.5, we need to talk about it.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second.
And that is taken from the Bowie Park Fund. I'm sorry. I meant to put that on.
Okay. Tom, how's this affect your figures at the end of the year that we talked about?
Minus 12.5?
Just take it and minus it. So, and that number was 400,000? Okay,
I will try to get some definitive numbers within the next little bit. I've thought would have them by now, but this budget is, every time I turn around, I'm rerunning numbers.
Well, and it is, if we do this, and with it being Memorial Day and everything else, it's going to be another week before they get it installed, and using a 30-day payment cycle, it's going to be after the first of the fiscal year. So it's not going to impact Tom in any shape, size, form, or fashion in terms of the money he's trying to accumulate.
And now they've got us where as soon as we receive the invoice, it's in our books as an expenditure. So
it would affect them, yeah.
Yes. So if we can get them to hold the invoice till July 1 and bill us in July, it would help us.
Well, in the discussions with them, Keith, that's something we need to happen.
The only other discussion, I'd like to make sure, I would like to ask that we include Mid-South in that, since they are a local company. I think we should always include local people in a bid process. State, Mid-State.
Yeah, mistake, no.
So I'd like to ask that.
He did do us a real good job on the District Village. He might be willing to help us out here. I'm sure he'd be willing. I can't speak for Mr. Clark.
Yeah, you might check with Tom Porter too, Porter Heat and Cooling here locally. There may be others. I hate to leave anybody out, but it might not hurt to get another bid. I know
Yeah, you can get more than two, just at least two.
Yeah.
Okay, with that being said, I'll take it to a vote, but I just wanted to say this absolutely kills me to vote for this. But I work with kids every day in summer camp, and I hate to think not having cooling air. I think it's reckless of us, because in the fact of that we know nowhere if we're even going to make the end of the budget and have the percentage that we should, and knowing the state we're in. But this is emergency. These are the things that y'all need to think about when the budget comes up and we vote on it, because this stuff happens. It's life. So I'm going to take it to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
It's 9 o'clock.
Okay, G, open records.
Mayor,
Yes.
it's 9.
Oh, you need your break? Okay, let's take a short recess. I'll be glad. I'll prepare for my closing. Okay, how long? 3 minutes? 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay.
This is
Okay, we're going to call the meeting back to order, and that brings us to agenda item G. Okay, and that's going to be Mr. Cantrell. It is open records. Well, it's discuss Open Meeting Act and Open Records Act. And there was a citizen that had made or inquired some questions, and so Mr. Cantrell said, you know, I'll just address it all in the meeting, and it's not specific. He was just going to give the general, trying to answer the questions. So if you want to proceed, yes.
Can I just ask, is this something that we have to take up tonight? I know it's on the agenda, but is it something that we just absolutely have to deal with?
You do not, you can defer it to the next meeting if that's the
I
wishes
move
of the
to
board.
defer it.
I can bring my information back and give the next meeting just as easy as I can do it this one. There's no,
It's information only, right?
pardon?
This is information only.
Yeah, there's no
It's informational. It doesn't require any action by the
Yeah,
board.
I just don't feel, I don't know if I would hear what he said, if he said it. I'm just, my mind, we've been here since 5, and I'm checked out. I'll just be honest.
Okay.
I have no problem with that. I mean, I can bring the information back. It's not a problem to me, and I don't feel insulted.
Okay. We'll move on. Yeah, they did, didn't they? Oh, I got a motion. Okay.
Vote.
Okay. Opposed? None opposed. Okay. Let's go on. City manager's items to discussion.
Mayor, I have nothing else tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I had my wonderful presentation all ready to go, and I have nothing else to say. Thank you.
Yes.
I know that we've got to put together a first draft and we've got to get everything in the paper and everything, but is there anything I can do about the health insurance to get this, maybe get where we can have our employees can have their cards and they can have their enroll. I mean, I don't know what to tell. I told Tim I'd call him tonight, and I really don't know what to tell him. So I just,
He's in Birmingham right now, but he's available for your call.
well, I don't know what to tell him.
Well, I don't think there's anything you can tell them. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, you can tell them what you think, because obviously, y'all got it figured out. So you tell them what y'all think our budget's going to be and what our projections, and, you know, but you can't do anything for sure until it's approved. I mean, he could even start talking to the people, you know, we're using that company.
Larry, this is a question I hadn't thought about, but have we got to wait till the second reading of this budget to go ahead and get him going on his insurance? Oh,
No, you can vote on insurance.
Well, he can do whatever he wants, but at the risk of something changing on second reading, whatever he did, if it was pulled back, he's wasted a lot of time preparing something that we can't guarantee him what the board's going to do from first reading to second reading. That's no reflection on you, but that's the reason you have a second reading. All ordinances are fully amendable from first reading through the second reading unless you do something that changes the caption. In other words, you did something that wouldn't be a budget anymore, then you'd have to start back at first reading.
Could I make a suggestion? I think we've already agreed that we are going to United Healthcare. And I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think that it's down to either that TWAL or TWAN policies. So I think that information could be given to him. And I even think you could start employee briefings because there is little difference between the two policies. The policies, you know, there's a little change in the deductible and a little change in the other. Otherwise, the policies pay the exact same amount. They're structured the exact same way. So what you could do everything, Tim could do everything, he could have the employee briefings, everything up to June the 3rd, when the decision is made as to what the city's gonna pay and which policy we're gonna endorse. And then the employees, then they know. But they've given both policies, and there's just little or no difference, and all they have to do is pick what they want. Do they want that one, or do they want that optional policy with the specialist, or do they not want to participate? I don't think there's going to be a big difference between the 3rd and them making the choice on the 4th and rocking and rolling on the 5th at United Healthcare. Does that make sense to y'all or not?
That's what we're gonna have to do. We can't approve anything for them to move forward on a specific plan tonight. I don't think.
I agree that we're
But-
down to those plans. I think the only, like you said, the only thing that remains to decide is which one we'll go with and how much the city's gonna pitch in.
Well, and really hindsight, we could vote for the healthcare prior to our next budget discussion, whatever our special meeting or I guess it's a regular meeting next time. But, or even have a special meeting for that. But the thing about it is, until we know our budget, it's kind of hard, until we're in some kind of consensus, it's kind of hard to approve which one. So, I don't know,
If we don't pass a budget, do we have to revert back to last year's insurance, since that's what's in our current budget?
Well, and, it's getting to the point now, I'm thinking it might be in our best interest, if we can't make a decision, it might be best interest to carry out our current plan until November, and then try this again next year. But I don't know. I just feel like we're gonna really, I feel like we're down to the wire.
Well, my question wasn't for being in favor of doing that. I'm just saying, I wonder if that is a requirement. If we don't pass a budget, will we be forced on that plan? Since that's what we currently are operating under.
No, we could do that ad hoc. We could take that out and do that ad hoc. It's a contract with that healthcare company. The line item on how we pay for it's part of the budget, but we could enter into a contract with them to provide it. So, it seems to me the next step has got to be to brief the employees on what the policies are. And I just think we've agreed on United Healthcare. We just, when we do the briefings with the employees between now and June the 3rd, what we do is we brief them on both policies and say, well, it's gonna be one of these two things. That I think we can decide on. We're not sure what your contribution is gonna be, but your policy is gonna be one of these two things.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared as to which one you would want, and we'll provide you with cost figures on June the 4th, and you'll have to make a decision. That's what I think, but.
I agree. I think that's,
Brother Crutcher up here, I'm gone brain dead.
From a legal standpoint, I don't have a problem with that as long as Mr. White's aware, and I'm sure Tom will tell him, but that he's aware that it's gonna be this one or this one, but we can't tell you which one it's gonna be.
Well, and I think he probably would call United Healthcare and say, I'm gonna have a 60-something package coming in, I'm just not sure which one yet. I'll be delivered it to you the week of the 6th or 7th or whatever it is. And they're a multi-million-dollar organization, they can process, we don't have but 60 cards to print out, I just think that going ahead and getting the employees briefed is something we should do. That way they're ready to make a decision. If we wait until we make a decision to do the briefings, it really puts Tom in a cramp. Right?
it does. And it has to go through 2 readings on this, because,
The budget ordinance will, yes, ma'am.
okay, but we can approve
You can-
insurance
Right,
prior.
you can approve the insurance when you want to,
And it doesn't have
that doesn't require
I
an
put
ordinance.
whatever y'all approve in the budget,
That doesn't require an ordinance.
Well, that's really not true, because You know, tonight we took a budget, which was y'all's budget, and you got 3 votes on it. So what's the next process? I mean, besides bringing the written,
gotta actually
you know,
bring
I
it-
know I can still we can still argue it and discuss it, but, you know.
You've got to bring in the actual numbers, you've got to publish it in the paper, and then you have to have a second reading of the public hearing and pass a tax ordinance to fund the budget.
What's in my budget is the
Yeah.
best one, but there was also a line item after that to vote on the insurance.
Yeah, but we decided we couldn't because we didn't know what we were gonna do in the budget, and that's why I was asking the attorney, you know, really, didn't we pretty much say and draw up whatever he just said was exactly what they presented? And so basically, we just said we're gonna give the best, because what are they gonna do different besides
Well,
put the actual numbers in?
You can amend the ordinance if you so desire to adopt the other insurance policy, because it's amendable up to the second reading, and you haven't had the first reading yet because you don't have the figures. And then after that, it's got to be published in the paper, and then have to have a second reading and a public hearing and a tax ordinance.
Well, what's gonna change, Tom?
Mayor,
Yeah,
my main intent tonight was to move us down the track. We were not moving down the track. There has been no firm budget. We voted.
we gave some good discussions, and that's, you.
Right, but when we get to first read, everybody up here has the chance to amend their thinking, and we have the chance to amend anything in the line item. Now, there was a good exchange of information, everybody heard anything, but if we had walked away without passing some motion to get some formal document up here in first read, we would have lost another 2 weeks. And so, I don't see it as a done deal. I see that we all put our positions out. I hope that each of us will think about the things that other people may have said, and we'll keep working the issue for when the first read comes out. But we're running out of time. We had to move it forward, and that was the only way that we could legally move it forward to get to the point to start making decisions.
Right, but we based it off of what they presented. So, and I was just saying is that much gonna change from what you asked for the first read, what you presented tonight? I mean, I expect you're gonna come.
I've got a lot of questions coming up. that they're not ready to be
His
answered.
first read is what's gonna come back, but we as the board will be able to make amendments to that first read. And at the risk of being repetitive, I mean, I heard what you said, I heard what Mr. Crutcher said. I have the documents that you passed out. I'm gonna look at those documents between now and first read to see if there's anything in there that I wanna change my position on. I'm assuming that everybody else will do the same. Because I would like for us not to have a 3-2 vote on the final budget. I would like for us to be unanimous in the final budget. But that's gonna require every one of us to do something. But we would have just had another 2-hour meeting with no movement whatsoever toward our legally required budget due July the 1st. And that was my major purpose in that. And you know, I'm not even repeat myself.
What happens if we don't have a budget passed by July the 1st? Which, if there's not some compromise, looks like it could be a real possibility.
What you have to do is, if you don't have a budget by July the 1st, your current budget extends into July. And if you get it done by the end of July, that's not good. But if you don't make some real progress on that, you start getting nasty little phone calls and nasty little letters because it has to be turned into the state. And they don't have it, and they say, "Where are you?" Well, we don't have our budget yet. I've been here when it ran over, but it never ran over more than a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But you have to, the budget that you have automatically continues until you get the other one. You don't leave the city without a budget.
That's why I was questioning what insurance plan we would have, since we would be under the old budget.
Well, the amounts would be, we could change from one insurance company to the other.
If we stay going under the old budget, it's not gonna be long until we're not gonna be going at all. Is that?
I think I zoned out on you.
I said, if we stay moving forward with the budget that exists right now, we're not gonna be functioning very long before we're out of money.
You can only spend what you have, and we don't have anything, so, we're just.
Yeah, there's no money.
That's what I
We
mean.
just,
Theoretically, that budget has to extend until you get a new one, and then you start getting like
Because it's on the budget
nasty
line.
level.
I understand.
I would strongly recommend that you get one by July 1st, if at all possible, because you start,
you just keep your line items.
things happen that you don't want to happen.
It would be in our best interest to get it done by July 1, and June 30th, if we, in any way possible.
Okay, so, with that, did you get clarification so we can move on?
Yes. I would, yes, I think I can talk to him now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, that leads us to our commissioner. I'll start with Commissioner Johnson. Do you have anything tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. One question. I may have missed the meeting. I didn't think I did, but when did we decide that the firemen were going to shoot the fireworks? Does anybody have an answer for that? Did this board vote for that?
I didn't.
I learned it yesterday at Dos Margaritas.
The last thing I remember, we approved a contract with the previous people that shot the fireworks.
We haven't really finalized anything yet. We haven't even had but one just minor meeting, and Brandy's been handling that. And you got anything you'd like to say, add to that?
It was just something we did this year. We thought we would try this option.
The people we had the contract with that we renewed this year,
We're not using the same people we used last
And that was that gentleman that spoke to us, was the guy from last year?
year. From last year.
What was the issue with him?
We don't know for sure, but we had good word that they were using a license that was not their own.
No, I mean, that's not true. I mean, they worked under a company that was somewhere else. They're local guys, but they worked under a company, and they had a license. And you, as a city, we should have required any license to be turned in. I mean, so I don't know if that was happening, it was our fault. Did we have them certified, like the firemen? Because it's a big process. Have they already gone through this?
They've almost completed the process.
How much did that cost us?
I'd have to look that up.
So you think they get certified for free?
No, I'm not saying that. Nothing's jumping out of my head on the bill that I paid as far as for that.
Okay, who would have approved them to go get certified? And then what was the cost to do it? Somebody would have had to prove, Mr. Hall, prove for them if there was a cost? I mean,
I've just heard that they might be getting certified. I haven't heard any cost or anything.
And getting certified, where do we stand on the equipment that's needed to shoot the fireworks that he's speaking of?
tubes and whatever.
All that. Do we
I
have?
think that's provided, but I will double check.
Provided by who?
Provided by whom?
By the people we're buying the fireworks through.
How much are we saving, Brandy?
We're spending the same amount that we did last year.
if we didn't have to pay for any more equipment and certification.
Where are we in that process? Could we reinstitute this guy or some private firm?
But they're not
Fireworks
shooting.
themselves, not carrying out the show.
We can still buy the fireworks from them, and,
Well, this other guy's not gonna wanna shoot other people's fireworks, I guarantee you.
well, he has to buy them from somewhere.
Well, and I don't think his concern from what I got when he called me and I talked to him, his concern wasn't whether or not, if we want to part ways, that's our business. I mean, we can do whatever. But as a citizen, he had concerns and, you know, whatever he listed off. And I haven't looked with the email, but I'd like answers to all those questions because, you know, and then the liability, who's liable? I mean, that's a huge policy. Have you looked into the additional, what's the cost on that? There's not an additional cost to shoot fireworks, meaning the city employee actually, okay, well, let's see that in
I've
writing
talked to
too.
TML, and
Yeah.
that's what they've told me. I just have to get all the certifications to them, so they have it all together, all the
We,
paperwork together.
yeah, and I do know we have to have a form filled out that what's going on.
But, Mr. Cantrell, if we've got a city employee that's actually handling the discharge of these fireworks and something goes haywire, we don't have that company that's in the past been shooting them off to fall back on for negligence. The negligence falls right squarely on the city.
Well, in the past, typically the people that shot them had $1 million or $2 million
Sure.
or $3 million was a minimum of general liability insurance. If they're not there, then the city's going to be shooting them on their own.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not. First of all, I think you'd have to have certified shooters. You're going to have to. Then, if they're certified, they're going to know how to shoot them. If TML is going to cover it, then you come under the umbrella of the Tort Claims Liability Act, unless this is deemed ultra-hazardous activity, and it very well may be. Blasting, I know, is an ultra-hazardous activity. I'm not sure, fireworks are not designed to blow up dirt and all this kind of
Sure.
stuff. Whether it comes under ultra-hazardous activity, I'd have to research. I couldn't answer that off the top of my head. I can tell you that blasting is a ultra-hazardous activity, and I also know that if you've got certified shooters and things aren't shot properly, you just might make a good argument for this doesn't come under the umbrella of the Tort Claims Liability Act, and then the sky's the limit. I think if I was going to do that, I would get an umbrella policy to start where the Tort Claims Liability Act stops and go up to $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever you guys deem appropriate. But then that way, because TML is not going to cover it above that Tort Claims Liability Act. And if somebody can make a good enough argument and get through that, then you can recover whatever you can recover.
It just seems to me that, well, we're really opening ourselves up to some exposure by having city employees shoot those things off. I might have missed it when that contract came through, and I hate to admit that I missed something, but I didn't realize that we would be the ones handling that.
Well, and when Brandy gave it to me, I asked, I said, are these the people that we used before? And she said, yeah, I believe so. And I said, when we were signing, and I said, the attorney looked over this, and you said, yeah, and you could tell where you had something. And I don't know if it was a contract or agreement, but there was.
The contract was just, as I understand it, was just for the purchase of the fireworks. It's not for shooting them.
And was that on the agenda? And then,
Is it the same, did we buy the fireworks last year, or did he buy them?
He bought 'em.
we're paying the same price, but I think you were thinking y'all were getting more, right? More fire. Did you have a list to compare what you got last year? Huh?
Is it twice as much?
But do you have a list that you compared it to? So so you can get us a copy of what the other one.
I'm just not real comfortable with somebody shooting off fireworks with no experience. I'm sorry, they can go certification all they want to.
Can we do this? Brandy, can we contact a person that's in the business of shooting the fireworks and find out what it would cost us to pay them to shoot these fireworks we've already bought? Now, that may not be this guy here. You may have to shop around a little bit. But since we get twice as much, it might be prudent to, instead of voiding, I don't know how much we put down for deposit, but it might be prudent to go ahead and do the purchase and then contract with somebody to actually do the shooting for us. And
I'm sure the supplier can give us.
And the supplier can give us somebody, It won't hurt anything. I mean, we probably didn't need to spend the money to have them certified, but, you know, our firefighters can go out there and can help this person. But I think we need a contractor to actually shoot the fireworks, so.
There's one that lives here locally that does out for City of Centerville.
But they've got to be willing to bring their equipment and use these other
I'm just saying,
companies'
there's people here that can do
Not
it.
lighting these with a pump stick.
I've seen it done out here.
So. how
These
does
things
that-
are
how's
electronic
that-
ignition.
Well, I kind of have a problem
light
with, I mean, I just
Go.
kind of feel like we should stick with, I mean, I don't know that I would approve this, but, you know, if this is what they've gone with and they're going to get certified, but I would want to know costs, like how much liability more are we paying? And then if that's the case, we didn't save any money at all. I mean, I'd hate to tell these people that they've gone through 2 classes and, you know, they can't get certified, but I wouldn't want them working on our clock, us paying them. That's where the liability comes in. I mean, if they got the proper certification, but what comes to liability is, are we paying them to do this or requiring them to do this?
What you get if you have 2 different individuals, if you're gonna get somebody to shoot these, get somebody that meets that can post the liability insurance for the shooting. And you don't need a hybrid crew out there working, because if something happens, what you're gonna get is this. It was his fault, no, it was his fault.
Well, and, you know, the thing about it is, I always thought that company that we used the last 2 years did a great job. It was better than the company that the first year, and that's the one we're gone through, right? So we had a much bigger show with,
The company we went through the very first, they shot them for us.
yeah.
So are they not shooting them for us this year? Because they're already booked at other areas?
And the contract clearly says they're just supplying fireworks. I mean, that's what I was asked to review, that's what I
So we
reviewed.
did miss it.
And I have no problem with the contract to supply the fireworks. But I got, you know, from the city's standpoint and for their sake, I got a problem with a legal problem with city employees lighting the match. You'd want to get somebody that's certified in this, and I don't have anything against the city employees, but you're going to have limited liability there to the Tort Claims Liability Act, and if you can make a good enough argument and get around that, then you've got unlimited liability. So you get somebody that's certified to shoot them, and they post their normal. I mean, they'll have policy, they just name different people.
So we're gonna have a 40-minute show instead of a 20-minute show? Well, if
Well-
you shoot them at the
We
same
think
rate, it would
simplistically,
be.
Brandy.
If you double them up, it'd be the same amount of time.
Well, and here's the other thing, Mr. Woods, that did the shoot the last 2 years, you know, the first year, they said, where they were way cheaper than, you know, the one that we used the first year. So the second year, the Woods, they weren't happy with their own shoot,
And gave
and they
us money.
refund money back. And so then they come the second year, and they did a great job last year. So, I mean, I don't know why, what's the deposit? How much would we lose? And then how much are we gonna lose about the,
I still think we're arguing for no reason. He will shoot those fireworks, I'm quite certain. They have to buy their fireworks from a supplier. If we go ahead and, he can give us a price to shoot them.
Right,
And I'm
let's ask
quite
the man.
certain he can shoot what we're buying.
right. That's what I think we ought, that's what I was trying to.
We're not gonna lose anything. It's just gonna cost us a little more to get him to do it. Unless he's willing to do it for the community, which he stood at the podium and he might be willing to do that. Cause he said he just needed to schedule it if he was gonna do that.
Yeah, I think we ask him what he would, tell him this, and we ask him what he'd shoot the fireworks for. And then the firemen don't do it, he does it, and what we lose is what we have to pay him if he offers, and/or what it costs us to get the firemen certified. But at some point in the future, it may be helpful to have the firemen certified for something else. We may decide we want to do a second show at a smaller a smaller show or something,
June 13th, Triangle School.
Well, if it comes down to it, though, the smaller show, I mean, if you're using firemen, it's still the same liability, is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter if it's a
Absolutely.
bigger show or a smaller show.
No, if you're putting on the show, you're gonna be footing the bill.
Yeah.
And of course, if it was a normal type thing, if you were having a picnic, this type of thing, I don't think you could make an argument that would get you outside the Tort Claims Liability Act. But when you start getting into pyrotechnics and racing cars down the street, this type of thing, and they go airborne and land in the crowd, you can get into some real interesting arguments, and I wouldn't care to speculate on whether you'd be successful or not.
Okay, I'm sorry. We hijacked your comments. Vice Mayor Sutton.
No, mine kind of deals with it, I guess, but just to remind everybody that there's gonna be a memorial celebration at Hudgens Cemetery at 9 a.m. on Monday. It's right there off of Deer Ridge, and what's the side street that comes around into it? Sorry. Go to the church and turn right. Go to church, turn right up there, just to make sure everybody's invited to come out. I've already filmed everything this tonight. What?
Okay, Commissioner Bassell.
No, ma'am, I don't have anything.
Okay, Commissioner Crutcher.
Just quickly, I don't want there to be any mistake about it, that I appreciate what the employees of the city do, particularly Mr. Hall and Mr. Daugherty for working hard on this budget, although we may not always agree, as the five of us don't always agree. You brought what you thought was in the best interest of the city to the board tonight, and I feel like that the mayor and I have offered some alternate proposals and theories of how we can reach a number to get to where we feel like we need to be going into next fiscal year. And to some extent, honestly, I sort of feel villainized for the proposal that I made. And the proposal that I made was not to, I have no mission for someone to lose their job. Doesn't make me feel good to even propose that. Didn't sleep any easier, thinking that was going to be something that I had to come in here and offer up as an alternate proposal. But I feel as a commissioner, it's my job to think of ways to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish as a board, and do it in what's in the best interest of the citizens and who elected me to this position. And that's why I came with the proposal that I came with. And I know that in moments where you're talking about jobs and pay cuts and those types of things, the emotions are high, and I respect that. I was very emotional about the situation myself, but I don't think it's fair to, for what it's worth, to villainize either me or the mayor for our proposals. That's what they were. They were proposals, and I sort of get that sense that that's kind of what's happened, and that's unfortunate. So I hope that gets rectified, and I hope that we can continue to have a good working relationship, because that's what we need, and we do need this board to unite. I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it. This board needs to unite and move forward and do things that are going to put Fairview on the best path to continue into the future with some sustainability in mind. And I stand behind my proposal. I'm not going to back down from it. This is not for me to try to save face with what I proposed. I stand behind and think that proposal was a way to accomplish what's in the best interest of the citizens. So, but I do appreciate the work that you guys have put into it. I know I've been up here multiple times, and you've taken the time to meet with me, and I appreciate that. That's all I have.
Just to piggyback that, I mean, I know that this was a bad situation for these employees, have to sit around for a week and wonder who's going to get cut. And that stems some of that. But leadership comes from, y'all, and, and y'all, Mr. Hall, you work for the board. And I know you commented that y'all, or Tom, that y'all were the representatives of the staff. Well, that's fine, yes, you can come propose. But in the same point, you're supposed to take what we want and relay it to the staff and make sure that it's going. And this is budget issues. This is not personal. And, it's so funny. I would walk down the street and the employees won't even, I know what Shannon's doing because they won't even look at you. Well, at some point, you have a responsibility to make sure that the employees have the right mindset, because if they're not happy with their job, they need to leave. But the thing about it is we're doing what the citizens asked us to do, and that's to balance a sound budget. And the state requires us to do it. And, just because you don't see eye to eye, or you don't like what we're proposing, I've come, with ways. Shannon came with ways. Alan had a proposal. Y'all have had a couple. Donna, it's the process. So lining them up in the audience and acting like we're going to vote anything different is, I don't know. The thing about it is I'm up here to represent the Fairview community, the citizens. And you know what? They may not all agree with me, but there's, the thing about it, when I go to bed at night, I have to try to make the best decision for the future of Fairview, the longevity of Fairview. And you know what? I haven't really agreed with the last 4 since I've been in office, spending all the way back from being elected as commissioner. And, until we get it out of control, and I think a lot of us, I've seen their faces. I don't even, Vice Mayor made a comment, about not realizing not realizing what bad shape. Why doesn't he realize? Because were y'all coming and telling us what bad shape? We've got to open these lines of communication, because there shouldn't have been any commissioner or board not realizing where we're at. And those are things that y'all have tried. And of course, I know if we come and ask, you've always said exactly. And I've gone on and on about what a great job. I really think we would have been in bad trouble if Wayne and Tom did not come in and do what they've done. They have tried to fix a mess. And I applaud you for it, and I see it. But when budget time comes, that's the one time we do have say on how the money's given and what positions that should be funded. Now, in the year, you can move them around. You don't have to come to us. You could do whatever. But that's one time we have say. And to cheat me out of my say or make me try to feel bad for having an opinion, I'm not taking it. I'm here to represent the people. So, with that being said, if I'll have a motion. Meeting's adjourned.